Welcome to the PRsonal Podcast. I'm really excited to finally have in the studio with me today, Nicola Wood. Nicola Wood is a multi-award-winning entrepreneur, hair loss specialist, author, speaker, trichologist, and cancer activist. Nicola, when you were first diagnosed with cancer, the first question you asked was, am I going to die? What was the second question you asked?
And the second question was, am I going to lose my hair?
But you hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And there's a comment that people say, well, it's only hair.
Yeah.
It's much more than that. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. I think my life is hair. My life has always been hair. Since I was 12, my life's been hair. And so for me, hair is much more than just hair. It's also what identifies us as a woman. It's what historically is identified as makes us beautiful. It's your identity, it's your femininity, it's your beauty. It's what makes you feel great, you know. It's a lot more than just hair. It really irritates us when people say it's just hair. And faced with the prospect of losing your hair, that's pretty life-changing.
Absolutely. And I can see why people might sometimes say it's only hair, you know, when it's your life or hair.
Yes.
But actually, I think it was listening to your TED Talk that you said sometimes people refuse treatment purely because they don't want to lose their hair.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't even tell you how many women I've met who will not have specific treatment because of the fact that they'd lose their hair. It's just too much for them to bear. It's like the final straw.
So it's almost like they would rather die with their hair than live without it?
That's right. Yeah, dying with dignity is often a phrase that is expressed when we talk about losing your hair and facing death. People would rather have a shorter life and die with dignity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you do think about, after saying everything you've said, your hair plays such a critical part of your identity. Why do you think it's so understated by so many people?
I think it's understated until something happens to your hair. You know, we just take it for granted, you know, that it's something, it's there, it makes us feel good. But actually, if you have hair changes, and it's not just losing all of your hair, if you experience temporary hair loss, if you experience postpartum shedding, if you experience any kind of hair changes, then you'll appreciate actually this does matter to us. For most people, it does matter. You know, for men, it matters. A lot of men lose their hair, and ask a man if it bothers them. Losing the hair in the 20s, it absolutely does.
Do you think it's something that we don't give, men enough credit for dealing with? It's almost just like, it just happens. I think I found a stat online that said 50% of men in the UK experience some form of hair loss before they're 50.
Yeah.
It's almost like because it's so common, it shouldn't bother them.
But they should accept it.
It's a massive thing.
It is. I think it's a bit taboo. Men don't talk about it. It's just, okay, I've got to shave it now, or, do that comb over thing that people did for years. I think a wonderful thing that's happening now is we've got treatment for it, especially for male pattern baldness. The last couple of years, the landscape has massively changed, and there's some amazing drugs for male pattern baldness that are transforming it. And even without those drugs, we've now got affordable treatments for men who are losing the hair. Like a hair transplant does not cost what it used to cost. We've got micropigmentation techniques that can help cover that up in a non-invasive and not so invasive way as surgery. So there's lots of options that weren't there 10 years ago.
Yeah. I didn't even realise that.
Yeah.
The drugs are really effective.
Just the last 2 or 3 years, drugs have massively changed. And you've got now a drug that'll block the hormone that causes male hair loss.
Okay, so it's a hormone.
Yeah.
And is it more that men that are more partial to this hormone than women usually?
That's right.
But that said, women can get, any sex can get alopecia.
Yeah.
How devastating is that?
Yeah, hugely. And the thing I find most upsetting about alopecia and how sudden it can onset is at the age that it onsets, So for a lot of women, it's mainly young girls, children, when you get this initial onset of alopecia, which is a really tricky time in your life anyway. And then to lose your hair suddenly is very, very difficult.
Yeah, I used to swim with someone. She must have been a teenager when it happened to her. I wasn't particularly close before, but I wish I'd gone and spoken to her about it, because again, it was just brushed under the carpet. You almost didn't want to upset someone by mentioning it. Do you find that some of your clients, they'd rather you spoke about it openly, or do they just not want to go there?
Honestly, it's generational. So if I have an older lady with alopecia, say somebody in her 50s, 60s, 70s, she will categorically not want to talk about it. She'll want to be in a private room. Some ladies would ask me to leave the room while they took the wig off and tried a new wig on. They won't change the colour, they won't change the style. It's something that they are hugely ashamed of. And it's because they've been brought up that way. They were told they must wear the wig. They shouldn't be seen without the wig. Generationally now, because of the positive impact of some social media, we embrace change. So what I'm finding is my younger clients with alopecia will walk in the shop with no wig on and then try it on. They'll want to have a salon experience and sit and have a blow dry in a room with other people with biological hair. So I think generationally it's changing. When it first happens, that's the time where we need to support that person as much as possible. So if we can offer the right support when it happens, then we'll find that 10 years later they'll be in a much better position mentally than if they haven't had the support when it happens.
And is it true as well that stress can make your hair fall out?
Yep. Yeah. Any kind of trauma to the body will have an effect on the hair and scalp, and it's usually a really good indicator. So if there's something happening with your hair, especially like diffuse kind of shedding, then that's a pretty good indicator that there's something happening on the inside.
Okay, that's so interesting. And are there steps that people can prevent it? Say someone's listening now and they're thinking, oh my goodness, like my hair's starting to fall out. Are there any steps they can do to prevent that happening?
Not to prevent it, but I would say investigation.
Right.
Yeah, if you've got some sort of, you can't. Quite often, the hair loss comes after the trauma to the body or the illness, and it's same as after the pregnancy. It's a couple of months after that you get that hair loss. Similar to what I'm talking about. I would just say it's worth investigating. If it's gone on for more than 8 weeks or so, you've had this kind of diffuse shedding, then I'd be looking for some blood tests and ruling out some things, looking at my diet, seeing if I'm actually getting the right vitamins and minerals, and exploring what's going on and why that's happened.
Okay. And how important is diet to the health of your hair? Because obviously you see a lot of like products, it's all about putting things on it, but how important is putting things into your mouth?
Incredibly important. It's sadly with hair loss, we can talk about it and know about it, but what we can do about it is limited. But the most important thing is I always describe your scalp and hair, it's like a flower. It needs sunlight, it needs water, and it needs food. And if you're not putting all of those three things right, then your flower won't grow. Your hair's going to struggle. So we've got to look at those three things.
Oh, that's a nice way of putting it. And also in your TED Talk, which is fantastic. And if anyone out there hasn't listened to Nicola's TED Talk, it's on, was it Stockport that you did? Or have I got that totally wrong?
Warrington. Yeah.
TED Talk Warrington. If you search Nicola Wood, TED Talk Warrington, amazing. I think you mentioned on there that you've got some customers or clients, or there's people out there who would quite happily let their partner see them naked, but never without their wig.
Yeah.
Again, that just shows the power of it.
Yeah, it's a different kind of naked. Seeing somebody without the hair, it's a different kind of naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good way of putting it. So, obviously we've talked about hair loss being linked to cancer or the treatment of cancer. Unfortunately, you've been through cancer yourself. You were diagnosed at 36. How did that change your life?
In every way possible, I think is the only way to describe it. Your future's taken away from you, and everything that you thought was going to happen is at risk. Yeah.
What was the hardest part of it?
The lack of control. The lack of control over your future, and all of the things that you think would be the biggest worry, like having cancer or something invading your mortality, actually were not forefront for me. It was, how will I pay the wages this week? How will I pay the mortgage this month? How will I play with my little boy? It's those things.
The day-to-day practicalities.
Yeah. It's not really. I give very little thought to what was happening to my body at the time. It's the day-to-day things.
How did you manage those day-to-day things?
With help from wonderful friends and family who rally round, with help from bank loans and mortgage breaks and business loans and all of that kind of thing. Yeah.
So you've got that added pressure on top of you, financial worries, care for children, as well as going through all the physical symptoms and feeling poorly.
Yeah, I think as wonderful as self-employment is, you realise how brilliant it's not when you. I mean, I didn't have medical insurance, so I didn't have that cover that, now I could say, yeah, why haven't you got medical cover? It seems obvious. But at 36, it wasn't a priority to us. It wasn't something I thought of.
Absolutely. And how long did you have off work, or were you still trying to work while going through it all?
Yeah, I worked up until the day before surgery, and I had approximately, I want to say, about a year.
And were your clients understanding? Did they come back to you afterwards?
Yeah. Your clients, hairdressing is such a pivotal part of community that your clients are your friends. You know each other's lives inside out, and they waited for us. Yeah, 90% of them, I would say, waited for us. Yeah,
that's lovely to hear. And have you been able to there must have been a lot of pressure returning from work anyway with what you've been through, but then obviously pressure returning to work knowing that you have loans to pay off.
Yeah.
How big a part did that play in everything?
I just knew that for me, work is such a huge part of me and my makeup, that and my recovery, that no matter what, I had to get back and I had to make it work. And that was it.
Did it almost help you through it?
Yeah. It's purpose, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
It's what you get up for, and actually not focusing on cancer is a good thing for me. It's not something. It's something I describe it as it's something that I allowed to happen to us, but I didn't become it.
Okay, you allowed happen to you.
I allowed it to happen through me.
Okay,
I didn't let it overcome me.
That makes sense. Yeah, brilliant. And you've worked and run your own business since a really young age.
Yeah.
How old were you when you set it all up?
21.
Wow, amazing. So suddenly not working as well, that must have been challenging. I mean, I know you probably felt too poorly to think about it, but did that almost affect your identity?
So I mean, I didn't really not work through it because that light bulb moment that I had where I was going to move from hairdressing into hair loss required a year of research and a year of planning and a year of development, and so I used my convalescence to do that. My brain was working every single day.
Wow, so you almost changed your misfortune into a new opportunity, business-wise, to help people who'd gone through what you have.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I think, and I talk to so many people, when something bad has happened, that it makes you want to do something or have more purpose, have more legacy, have more contribution, all of those things. And so actually it's what made us better. It's the reason that I genuinely feel that I didn't fall into the black hole of despair every day. It was having this purpose.
Yeah, Amazing. Good for you, because it is so easy. You'd be forgiven for falling into the hole of despair. You must have had dark days.
100%. I'm not saying that it was all easy, and I think if you know more of my story, you'll realise that I'm hugely emotional. I'm a roller coaster, and but I can guarantee you I had less of those days because I had something else to focus on.
Definitely. How did you get through the really dark moments?
Cuddles. I had a 6-year-old, and that helped me. He didn't know it, but like every day he saved us just by giving us a cuddle and needing us, to have, there's something bigger than you in the room when you've got a kid at home, isn't there? Something bigger than your pity party, for one, which I could have easily done every day. And don't get us wrong, I would. And then he would bound through the door and, Mummy, let's do this. Mummy, let's do that. Then,
What are the realities of having cancer when you've got a 6-year-old child to look after and be there for?
You don't have time for the cancer. And again, that's not just me. You've got to, I think, sometimes if you meet somebody who maybe is retired or doesn't have a family at home, or maybe is living alone with cancer, then they seem to be enveloped by the cancer much more. Young women, young mums, young businesswomen, young people with careers, they've got to fit cancer into everything else, and so it becomes part of their identity, but it doesn't overcome them as much as somebody who doesn't have that. Find that a woman, maybe a widower living on her own with cancer would be much more taken by it.
That's really interesting. It makes sense as well. And you've recently written a book about your experience with cancer. Why did you feel you needed to write a book about it?
I didn't at first. I felt like I needed to write down my feelings. It just helped me. I've always got a pen and paper by my side anyway. And I just was writing more and more about it. And then by doing the work that I do now and meeting thousands of people with cancer, over the years, I kept thinking, wow, there's so many perspectives. And then you would meet somebody who I would maybe talk to a husband and his wife would have cancer, and I just wish I knew how to help her. I just wish I knew how she felt. And I just thought, actually, if you could put all of those perspectives into one place, he would know how his wife felt and he would know how best to support her. And so though the book is, it's about cancer, and for people who've had cancer, it's as much for the person who hasn't had it but wants to understand it more, because invariably it's going to touch every single human's life. Of course it is. The statistics tell us that. I hope that somebody reading the book with cancer would be able to resonate and not feel alone. I definitely felt like I was the only 36-year-old mummy with cancer with a business who I'd ever met. That I had to go and find somebody like me. So I hope the book would give somebody with cancer that, but I equally hope that my husband could have read it and known how I was feeling, because I couldn't have told him how I was feeling.
Yeah, that's so important. I think whenever people go through trauma, they feel like they're so alone.
Yeah,
there's a reason for this podcast as well, so people can, sometimes even you can't solve their problems, but just knowing you're not alone is such a massive help.
Well, once I found me cancer friend, I was like, I didn't want to tell my husband just how desperate I felt on some days, because I knew that would hurt him. He's already hurting, watching me hurt is him hurting. And so for me to tell him, Steve, I'm actually really worried I'm going to die today. Like, I'm not really going to express that, but I could tell Caroline that. So finding that person meant everything. And so, maybe the 80-year-old who can't get to a support group might find a little bit of comfort in the book.
Yeah, support is absolutely critical. And were those the type of thoughts, when I know you're so busy as a working mum going through it all, but were those the sort of thoughts that would creep into your mind whenever you had a spare moment? Yeah.
I think one of my coping strategies is overworking. So rather than to sit and think about my problems, I'll just create a bigger work list, a busyness list. you know, and I now know it's a trigger, so that if I'm too busy, I think, right, what is actually work and what are you hiding from in your work? So that would be something that I definitely did, so that I wasn't sitting with those awful thoughts. Because, you know, I recently went through a cancer scare with a friend, and she says, Nicola, 1 minute I'm sitting thinking, oh, I've got a test next week, and the next minute I'm standing at my own graveside and my kids are at my funeral. And that's exactly where your mind goes, you know. So yeah, I tried not to let that happen, probably in a non-healthy way, by overworking sometimes.
And so what do you do now rather than overwork? Have you built strategies in place to stop that happening?
One of my biggest clues is if my sentence starts with what if.
Okay.
So if I have a thought that says what if, it's usually bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah. So what if is the biggest thing. And then I'm really quite geeky inside, but I track everything. I have like a habit tracker. I track everything daily, but that's also really for me to identify when I'm slipping. So I track my work hours, I track my sleep hours. God, I sound so sad.
No, I think it's important.
I track literally, I've got data for everything, but it's a way of me identifying when I'm falling in a bit of a hole.
Absolutely, because sometimes you don't realise until it's too late.
And then the data tells us, actually, Nicola, you've had 1 day off this week, or actually, Nicola, you did this on your day off, or like I track my self-care. Yeah, I'm very, very sad.
It's not sad
but
at all.
It helps us. It really does help us, because otherwise I'll be working before work, I'll be working after work, and really...
Okay. Yeah. And as well, you know, because I've sometimes thought that about my work. Do I kind of overwork to hide feelings or things that I'm going through? But sometimes it is just about having that passion and just wanting to work, you know?
I love Monday mornings, and I'm like Tigger in January. I absolutely drive me team insane, because I love what I do. I love what I do. So yeah, then it is hard to put your laptop down, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Stories are at the heart of the Personal Podcast, and we're so grateful for everyone who comes on and shares them. Stories are also at the heart of a strong PR campaign. And at Harvey and Hugo, we believe that everyone's story deserves a chance to be heard. That's why we're on a mission to give you a voice amplified through the power of story. Our stories are shared in the form of press releases, social media, content marketing, videography, photography, animation, graphic design, and podcasting. Our stories aren't just heard, they're shared, watched, clicked, but most importantly, they are felt. It's this stirring of emotions that cuts through the noise to light fires within people and activate them towards your purpose. So one question for you. Are you ready to share your story? Harvey and Hugo, your voice amplified.
Tell us then how cancer helped shape what you do, because you were always involved in hair. Then you had this year of research. So tell us how that shaped what you do now.
Yeah, essentially I realised in the hospital every day when I was in treatment that women with hair held themselves a certain way, women without hair or a poor wig held themselves a different way. I guess I'd always known the power of hair. I talk about the power of a haircut all the time, but actually seeing that every single day slapped in the face with what that did to your physiology, your confidence, the way you walked, the way you held your head, your crown. I just realised that I'd spent my life making people feel beautiful with hair, and that I needed to make people without hair feel as beautiful. And that was literally how it came about. And it's transformed. It's absolutely transformed my career and my purpose. And what started out as making sure none of my... What I wanted to do was, in the hospital, what I thought was, none of my clients will have a shitty hair loss experience. And that has transformed into We've helped over 15,000 people. We've helped over 2,000 children. We look after every single NHS trust in the Northeast.
Wow.
We can help people with money, without money. We can, it's absolutely growing arms and legs, let's say.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And massive credit to yourself for making
Thank
that happen.
you.
No shame for people who didn't transform and create a business off the back of their trauma, because, you're going through so much as it is. But that's amazing what you've achieved. So you've got a wig company now?
Yeah, we've got a hair loss company.
Right, okay.
So that provides wigs, support. We supply the NHS. A full everything you need with hair loss, I guess.
Amazing.
I want to say we'll hold your hand before, during and after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what did you want to change about kind of the hair loss industry? Why did you feel there was a gap in the market for yourself?
I thought it was outdated. I thought it was old-fashioned. I thought it humiliated women. This, don't get us wrong, this is not every service in the UK, but a hell of a lot of the ones that I found were, for me, hairdressing is about fashion and it's about trends, and it evolves, and we have different colours and different trends come on. The wig industry, it was hard to find somebody under 60 who'd done a course, in hairdressing, we are constantly learning. I want to upgrade my... If I want a 20-year-old to want me to cut the hair, I have to know what the trends are. So why is that any different with a wig? Why were the services that I found selling wigs like a pair of trainers? Come in, that's your size, that's your colour, there you go. And it was sometimes as impersonal as that. Nobody's sitting down saying, like for most women, you find you're going to have chemotherapy. Your first cycle might be the following week. 3 weeks later, you might have no hair. Like they need it, and they've got so much going on already. Yeah. But so you're going to get a wig. A, it's absolutely terrifying anyway. B, you don't want it to happen. C, you don't know how it's going to happen. So you don't want to have somebody like pull a curtain around you, or not even pull a curtain around you if you want it, and start plonking wigs on your head. We need a little bit of a chat first. We need to get you from a 10 anxiety down to a 2 before we even bring a wig out of the cupboard. We need to tell you how it's going to happen. We need to say what day your hair might fall out. All of those things for me come before even looking at a wig. Mm-hmm. And then we've got to deal with the actuality of it happening, the physicality of it happening. Mm-hmm. So does she need a haircut? Does she want to come? Does she want her kids to see? How does she prepare her family and friends for seeing her without no hair? Because actually that's probably what she's worried about most. Not what she looks like in the mirror. Mm-hmm. It's about what our little boy's going to think when he sees her with no hair. So how can we support her for that?
My goodness, there's so much that you just don't think about, do you? Unless you're in that situation, or unless you witness it, or speak to people who are going through it. It seems like it was just a very transactional process, ticking a box.
Yes, that's what I found.
It's such an emotional thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned children before. Mm-hmm. Does losing your hair have as significant an impact on a child compared to an adult?
Depends on the child.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the child. Some kids will literally just go, oh, mummy's got no hair today, and not give a damn. Mm-hmm. And other children will go, I don't want to see you without your wig on. Mm-hmm. Don't want to see you like that, mummy. You know, it depends on the child.
And speaking of children, obviously you had a 6-year-old or potentially younger when you were going through it. How did you talk to them about what you were going through?
I talked to him about it as much as he needed to know. Because of my job, I knew everybody at the school. Everybody knew me. I can't walk into Sainsbury's without seeing a client. And I wasn't prepared for him to overhear that I had cancer. Mm-hmm. And I also, it's normal. I didn't want him to see me crying, and I wanted to be as open as I needed to be with him. Because for all you think that you might be all right, what if you're not? What if things changed? What if I was going to be in hospital? What if... So, and it's everywhere, isn't it? I also think we have this children think, for Gabriel, the only 6 at 6 for Gabe, the only thing that he knew about cancer was everybody he knew who had cancer would be dead. So, you know, and for me, I probably thought that as well at 36. So for at 6, cancer equals death, because your nanas and their great-grandparents and all of this at school, they think cancer means that you die. And I wanted him to know that Mummy might have cancer, but for me, hopefully I'm not going to die, you know. So yeah, we had the conversation. I took advice, talked about it, and then we told him in a child-friendly way.
Okay. And how are you feeling now?
In terms of cancer?
Yeah.
I'm absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 7 years in remission, full remission. So that's classed as cured. From cancer. I still have regular checks, lots of scans. I've had loads of scares, a couple of operations since the cancer, but I don't have cancer anymore.
Okay. After going through what you've gone through, can you ever properly relax and think you are totally cured?
In between scans, yes.
Okay. Is that scans that give you the reassurance?
It's scans that make us terrified.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, the lead up to a scan, being at the hospital, waiting for the results.
Okay.
Is awful. Or having a lump, finding a lump somewhere, or bleeding, or having some kind of thing that feels quite unusual is really scary, because you know the reality is that it might be the cancer is back. So yeah, in between all of that, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
I don't give it thought. But yeah.
And is there a reason that you got it so young? It just seems so, I mean, I know people do, and it's awful.
Yeah, I mean, some people carry a genetic mutation, which is why they get it so young. For me, it was just shit luck. Yeah, it was just shit luck.
That's a good way of putting it.
However, I like to think that, you know, that is my brush with cancer done. I'd like to think that hopefully I had it young and got it out of the way, so then it'll leave us alone for a while.
Yeah, and then this is a bit of an awkward question, you know, based on all the things you've achieved since having cancer and the countless number of people that you've then gone on to help. I don't even want to say it, but are you glad you had cancer?
I can list the reasons why I'm grateful for it.
Okay.
I would prefer not to have got it. However, I'm very grateful for it. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah.
I actually wrote. I've written over 100 reasons that I'm grateful that I got it.
Okay. Is this in the book?
Some of them are, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that almost gratitude help you kind of move on from it?
I think gratitude for anything helps you move on, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think that's not about me trying to be toxically positive.
Yeah.
It's not, because because cancer's shit. There's absolutely no getting away from it. But there are a million reasons why my life's better because of it.
How challenging was the writing process when writing your book?
Not at all.
Really?
I love writing. I love journaling. The editing is a whole new level of shit.
That's the hard bit.
Oh my God. Yeah. Honestly, writing is cathartic for me. It was, I really enjoyed it, but then actually making that into something that's legible or readable, or that was different.
What was the process you went through for that then? From turning it into, because I love journaling, just pouring my thoughts out onto the page. But yeah, like you said, it's a whole other thing if you're going to look to get it published.
Yeah, for me it was voice notes and bullet points into longer voice notes, into transcribing them, and then transcribing that into something more legible, and then writing the story from that. And then from there, cutting that into something that's probably 1/10 of the size of what I wrote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is really tough to do.
Yeah. Doing that all of myself, and then sending it to some editors who then ripped it apart again.
Oh, no.
And then not being happy with that. So getting new editors and starting again. Yeah. To the point where you just want to think, I'm giving up on this. This is just too hard.
It's a brutal process. And how long would you say it's taken you to write from the very start of putting your thoughts down to the kind of now, because it's out at the time recording this, it's out early February, isn't it?
It's out on World Cancer Day, 4th of February.
Okay.
But I would say the whole thing maybe is 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
If anyone's in the midst of writing a book but struggling right now, what would you say to them?
Keep going. I think, when you read the book, you'll think, how the hell did that take 4 years? Because it's not just me, it's co-authors as well.
Mm-hmm.
How did that take 4 years? But it's just treat it as a learning growth opportunity. It's not like kind of being anything else. I've learned so much about myself from writing the book. Yeah, and determination and perseverance and patience and resilience when you get told constantly that's not good enough, or that's crap, or we need to rewrite that, or have you thought about writing it this way? So all of that it's been learning. And I'm sure once it's released and I get feedback, that'll be learning and resilience as well.
Well, I'll definitely look out for it and buy a copy, because I love reading stories when I know the person as well. And I know I don't know you really well, but it just it makes everything seem more real.
Yeah, I agree.
But good for you. Like, so many people out there that always say, I'm going to write a book. And because it is so difficult, very few go through with it. So it's an amazing achievement.
Thank you.
It'll feel so... Have you actually held a hard copy of it?
For one day. I've held the proof, but there was some problems with it, so I had to send it back. So I've literally held it for one day, which I feel mean, because I thought by this, like, everyone's going, well, I haven't read it, and my family, I haven't read it, and I'm like, but I haven't read it physically yet either. Yeah. So yeah, it's like literally on the nose when we're going to get the copies.
Oh, amazing! Was it quite traumatic writing it, revisiting how you perhaps felt in some of your darker moments?
Yeah, I mean, when I have read the manuscript digitally, I keep crying. When I recorded the audiobook, I kept crying, and which is weird for me because I talk about cancer every day. I talk about my cancer most days because people ask me in the chair, in the salon. It's such a big part of my life and what I do. I talk about it all the time, but rereading it just takes us back to those moments, and I just burst into tears, which has been... And then my husband wrote for the book, and my son wrote for the book.
Oh, lovely.
My nurses wrote for the book, so that's been quite difficult to read. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how hard is recording an audiobook?
Not, because I love talking.
Okay.
I've got no problem talking usually.
So that was the easier part.
I'm a hairdresser. Oh. We can talk.
Oh, of course. Yeah, silly question. And did you find it almost like, for all it's like difficult rereading it, do you feel that it is almost cathartic? Once you've read it, you've had another cry. It's almost like therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, and I guess sometimes that's where we go wrong. We don't want to revisit those painful places in our mind, but actually it helps us move on.
Yeah, we should cry. We should cry, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've heard it's a strength rather than a weakness to be able to cry. I can't give any more scientific knowledge on that, but I've just heard it.
You feel better afterwards, don't you?
Yeah, I've heard it, and it's justified me crying sometimes. If there's one message that you want people to take out of the book, what would it be?
I think this goes for people with cancer and without. I would say that the strongest message is the start of most people's battle with cancer is when the treatment ends.
Interesting. Okay. Can you explain that a little bit more?
That most people's emotional turmoil and mental health well-being deteriorates at the end of treatment. If we're fortunate enough to be the ones who get to the end of treatment, then that is the most difficult time. Okay. That is when you suddenly can breathe, and it's suddenly when you think, what just happened? You know, when somebody dies and you ask the widow what's the hardest part, and it's after the funeral.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's when you're left alone, when people stop caring, when people stop fussing, when nobody's there to do the school run. People just expect, right, she rang the bell, or she's at the end of treatment, or she's back at work. Everything's fine. But actually, for most people, they're on a shitload they're on so many drugs. Their bodies change, their body image has changed, their weights change, their relationships have changed. They've upset people, or people have upset them, so they've lost friendships. Or never underestimate somebody at the end of their treatment, because actually, for all I haven't told you, they're probably still going through absolute trauma.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up, because although there might be people listening to the podcast who can't relate to your situation, like you said at the start, we all know people who go through it, and that might help people, help their friends.
Help their friends, yeah. Ask them, have you got a scan coming up, like what does that look like?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you for raising that. Do you see life differently on the other side of cancer?
Yeah, damn right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be a waste, wouldn't I? My life would be a way. If I didn't see things differently now, I wasn't, for me, I didn't deserve to be cured. Like I'm not, I see things differently. Of course I do. Yeah.
In terms of being more appreciative for every day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get us wrong. I lapse into taking things for granted, but I bring myself back so much faster. Mm-hmm. Because every single day I meet people in the worst situations, I have got nothing to complain about. Mm-hmm. And every day I'm reminded of that in the work I do.
Lovely answer. What does the future hold for you, Nicola?
Like long term or?
Short term and long term.
Yeah. This year looks simple. My motto this year, or my tagline for life this year is do less, be more. So last year was a big year of doing, because I was getting the book. I opened a franchise. Like, it was a big doing year. This year is definitely being. I want to be more. Yeah, so from a work perspective, it looks very simple. Just get better at doing what we already do. No major new projects, nothing like that. Long term, I would say I came into this world as a hairdresser and I'll leave as one. I see myself, I started doing hair. There's been absolute chaos in the middle. All of the things I do now, I never thought I would do, but I probably will see my days out of work cutting hair. Yeah.
Lovely. And just doing things that you love.
Yeah.
And what would you like your legacy to be?
Contribution. 100% contribution. Like, what did I give?
Yeah, it sounds like you give a lot. It must be such a rewarding job, but also you've already mentioned you're meeting people in very difficult circumstances. Yeah. Does that add emotional strain to your life?
I had a business mentor, Paul Mort, actually. He's a local guy, and he has said a sentence that I never forget, and I've attached it to what I do. I get to be the best part of somebody's day every day, and that is incredible. Like, if you come in for a cut and blow dry, I'm the best part of your day. I make you feel great. Like, what a gift is that? But if I give you back your hair when you've lost it in the middle of cancer treatment, like, how great do I feel every day getting to do that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is lovely. And that's a lovely kind of message to end on, lovely answer to end on. Thank you so much, Nicola, but you're not quite done yet. We have our regular feature, which after talking about such a heavy topic, it sometimes just brings a little bit of fun, lightens the mood in the room. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being worst, 10 being the best, how would you rate yourself at the following items? How good looking are you?
I told my husband about this morning. He said I'm definitely a 10 out of 10.
Aww,
I would say I've never had a problem with how I've looked, and I'm pretty confident. I'm not the best, I'm not the worst, so I'm going to say a 7.
Awesome. How funny are you?
Again, Steve said I'm an 11. Funny, but I don't know it because
you've got a great partner.
Yeah. No, I'm going to say 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Average on the fence.
It is a fun game to play with your partner, isn't it? Where you can rate each other. How good at cooking are you?
Oh, I'm terrible. Absolutely terrible. I'm going to go 1. If it's cold, I can do it and make it look pretty. So aesthetically, I can make the best looking salad. I'm really good at like overnight oats is my new cold thing.
Yep.
But if it involves heat, you are screwed. Yeah.
I haven't heard that one before, but you'd rate yourself highly at cold food.
Cold food, yeah. Even then, just average, not high.
Okay, right.
I like an average at cold food and a 0 at hot food.
Okay. Do you sing? Are you good at it?
No.
No?
I can read music, I can play a little bit of music,
brilliant.
but no singing involved.
Okay. Do you play an instrument then?
I used to.
Okay. Which instrument?
A euphonium.
Oh, okay. I'm not even so sure I know what that is.
Like my husband thought it was like a sexy little clarinet type thing when we met, but it's actually one down from a tuba.
Okay.
It's
massive.
So I loved music when I was in junior school. Went to the comp and knocked on music, and I was like, I would like to play an instrument. And she like literally looked around the room at what was left and just handed us this huge metal thing. But I don't give up on things, so I did that for like 5 years and got really good at it and played in the orchestra, etc.
I bet not a lot of people know that. Is that a secret talent we've just revealed?
I guess so, yeah.
Brilliant. And you've taught me about an instrument. Do you drink alcohol and are you good at it?
I used to be cracking at it. I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I probably have an occasional drink a couple of times a year. I love drinking. I love the social aspect of drinking, but as I got older, I can't handle the anxiety that it gives us. Yeah, I just can't do it. It makes having a good drink does make me poorly for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Like literally, I'm anxious, I'm paranoid, I don't want to go to work. So a few years ago, I just thought, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, so yeah.
Raising children, how do you score yourself?
Well, I was thinking, how do you score yourself on that? But I've got a boy who's 16 next month, and in my eyes, he's perfect.
Yeah.
So I think I've done a pretty good job. I think I'm firm but fair. I follow through. If I say there's a consequence, there is a consequence, and I've stood by that since he was little. So I'm gonna go. I was the unwilling parent. Pregnant, like
really?
Children was not something that I planned into my future, and I wouldn't say I wasn't ever the parent who, and I still couldn't do a jigsaw for 6 hours and be satisfied. I've got about an hour of a jigsaw in it. But yeah, I think I've done a pretty good job. I'm proud of the almost man that I've raised. So I'm going to go 8.
Oh, that's lovely. How good a friend are you?
Yeah, I thought about this one as well. So I would like to think that the friends I have say I'm a good friend. However, I think you can always be a better friend, and what happens for me is I sacrifice a lot. I don't have a lot of friends, but I was always happy enough with my work, so I felt like I didn't need that.
Yeah.
And I can't fit everything in, so I would say friends are down the list after work and after family and health and fitness and all of that. But I would imagine that the friends that I've got say I'm pretty good, I'm pretty loyal, I check in, I love them daily. I'm just don't see them often enough.
Yeah.
So what should we say? 5.
And do you feel like because you've got a very social job, it kind of reduces your dependency on friends?
Absolutely. I chat with people all day. Sometimes I'm peopled out by the weekend.
Yeah, I can understand that as well. How intelligent are you, Nicola?
Academically, I don't have a PhD, I don't have a degree. I've done all of my learning as an adult, even though I got cracking GCSEs and studied engineering for a while, which is a whole new other subject. I would say I am very emotionally intelligent, and that's what's created my success.
Yeah.
But I don't have letters after my name. and I don't really care.
No, me neither. I think emotional intelligence, unless you're in a job that requires, you to be absolute. So like, if it's, you're a mathematician.
Yeah.
But I think emotional intelligence is so undervalued, particularly at school.
Yeah. My people skills is what has made me successful in life, not my degrees.
Yeah, amazing. How kind are you?
Hopefully very. I'd like to think that everything I do is sprinkled with love and kindness. I'm going to say 9.
Lovely. And final question, how good at sex are you?
My score for sex is better than my score for cooking.
Cold food or hot food?
That would be telling.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nicola.
Thank you.